until after you've been up an hour. So your circadian rhythm resets. So so I might not be quite as energetic this morning because this is my first sip of the glorious liquid.
Wow. I've been doing it wrong my entire life.
I know. I know. I've been doing it wrong because I get up, I push the button, and I have my cup, and I sit and I talk to Will, and he goes off to school, and then I go up and I get ready for the day. Well, today I had water instead, and so that is my first sip of coffee. Now, the other thing, I am old school. I don't have a fancy tech, so to make my computer the right height, it sits on a bunch of National Geographics. And for whatever reason, I took them out in different order today, and this was on top.
No way.
Bahamas blue holes. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, now we know where the money went. It went into the Bahamas blue holes.
Yeah.
Or we may have to rename him the Bahamian black hole. But anyway, I was like, that is life imitating art.
Mark, that makes me laugh, man, we've been doing this for a year. I didn't realize your computer was sitting on a stack of magazines. My computer is sitting on the box that this microphone comes in. That's
what I do at the office. That's what I do at the office. The box is the perfect height. It is the perfect, that box, right? The microphone box is the perfect height. And the compound return on stocks was minus 1.9%. And it is about to happen again. So it's ugly.
It very well might. It's not looking good out there in the land of equities. But let's talk about a couple of the looming threats, when we still look at crypto today. So we've had not just one, but I would say multiple different shoes drop on us over the course of the last
I'm running out of
6
shoes.
to 9 months or so. I know,
I'm running
right?
out of shoes.
We've got big hedge funds blowing up. We've got stable coins blowing up. We have exchanges blowing up and massive fraud being committed. When you look at when you look at what is still out there in terms of what could possibly still happen, I think there are basically three big threat vectors, let's call it. One is this sort of looming situation of DCG and Genesis. We don't really know what's going on there. We'll get into it, but basically every single time you sort of hear Genesis owes more and more money, right? And we've gone weeks and we haven't really heard any sort of resolution over there. We know that GBTC and Grayscale is an amazing business. It prints a lot of money. So we've thought for a period of time this is going to work itself out, but there's a potential there.
2 weeks ago, if they didn't raise $1 billion by Monday, it was game over.
I remember that too.
And it's still not game over. So it's a little bit like the old adage, if you borrow $1,000, you have a banker. If you borrow $1 million, you have in his hedge fund. And just to show you how unfair the world is, declared bankruptcy. Now, when something goes bankrupt, what does that mean? It means the loaners turn into the owners, right? In this world, there's only two things. You're a loaner or an owner. You own debt or you own equity. Okay, that's it. There's currencies and commodities too, but at the end of the day, there's equity and debt. And so in a bankruptcy, the debt gets paid first.
Right.
And if there's anything left, that goes to equity owners. In this case, there was no there. But Jamie Dimon, Jamie said, well, Bill, he's a friend. He's my buddy. I'm just not going to foreclose on the assets. And we had bought all this debt at pennies on the dollar, thinking we were going to own the equity of this great business. He's like, no, I'm just going to let Bill keep the equity. Like, no, you don't get to do that. But they did. And nobody enforced it, because it was, Jamie's decision. And that actually became the best performing stock in the next 10 years. Actually edged out UNH as the best performing stock in the S&P. And it pisses me off to this day, obviously, because that was my money. That was my client's money. It wasn't my money. It was my client's money. And that is not the way the world's supposed to work. But style matters, right? There's a couple people on Twitter. Their style's just so abrasive. They're like, I don't like them, so I don't listen to them. And I've been forcing myself to read this one guy in particular. I mean, I assume it's a guy. I think it's a guy, but I don't know because it's Anon.
It's an Anon, yeah.
And I mean, he's been so right. I mean, so right. And I should give him props. Bitfinex. And I did not like his style. That's what I think we're going to talk about with the second risk, right?
Well, here's I think the thing that, look, I don't have any special information. I think anyone who operates in this industry seriously, either from a career standpoint, or you have an enormous amount of money invested, or you just have an interest in seeing this industry succeed, I think if we take one thing away from this year is that we need to be better in many respects. And one aspect of that is we just need to demand transparency. No more of this, hey, I'm being fudded. Okay, I understand, but we also demand transparency here. Before we actually get into Tether, I want to talk a little bit about Binance. So Binance, right? Binance is in this very interesting position right now in that there was first of all, the Kevin O'Leary that was,
I almost had to take a Twitter break.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So to blame Binance for FTX's demise is almost unconscionable. I don't know how you, from a purely unbiased standpoint, get there. And then it turns out he took $15 million from FTX.
Michael,
right, he took $15 million from
He is an actor.
Yeah.
He's an actor. He's been given a script, okay, by the government. Here's what you say. We want to turn this. Look, if you believe, as I do, that this is all coming from a high place, a gap when you're talking to someone, like I don't go on TV ever and do interviews in Spanish or French because I don't speak those. So my English isn't very good. So I think there's part of that. Part of it too is, the issue for me in Binance isn't necessarily the functionality. I'm struggling for the right word here in my English. It's not the methodology is the word I'm thinking of the reserves, which I think you're right. It's lacking. I think for me, the issue is how closely does BNB represent or associate to FTT? As I understand it, and I hope to be proven wrong, but as I understand it, they're kind of the same. They're utility tokens that don't actually give you a share of equity, debt, or a claim on cash flows. And if that's true, okay, then you have the risk, just like with Cell, just like VGX, just like with FTT, that if you use that asset, bankruptcy filings, which why the world thinks those are accurate, I don't understand. And FTX claimed that these were unsecured loans. Of course they claim that. They don't want to admit that they were not unsecured loans. They were secured loans. And I can validate that as a factual statement. So the assertion that they're unsecured loans is wrong. The second thing is, when they made the loan, it was actually a small percentage of their total assets. They had $20 billion in assets at the time. And so a $700 million loan isn't that big deal. Now, when assets fell because of the crash and of withdrawals,